Good afternoon. Welcome to another conversation at the table. I am Chad Bresson. Thank you for joining us here at the conversation at the table. The Table of Los Fresnos getting ready to reopen next week. I hope you can join us at the Community Center in Los Fresnos. We will be meeting at 10:30 next Sunday. Tomorrow, you're welcome to join me again in my driveway. We'll have the table in the driveway again at 10:30, but hope you can be with us next Sunday because it's going to be good. We will have social distancing in place. You know, we're going to make sure that we're safe. We're going to make sure that we are following guidelines that the state of Texas has given us for religious gatherings as we meet. So anyway, that will be part of the whole mix. It's not going to be, again, the gatherings. Part of the new normal is they're not going to be completely like we're used to gathering, but we will be face to face. We will be gathering. So I encourage you, again, new venue, the Los Fresnos Community Center on Brazil, 204 North Brazil Street. Hope you can make it with us next week. We are approaching the end of the week, and this evening, this is being the last weekend of May, this evening is graduation. And we have a son graduating, Luke. Totally proud of Luke. He is graduating with the class of 2020. It's been difficult these past few weeks. He's had to navigate all sorts of things that aren't part of the typical graduation, but we are here. I'm totally excited for Luke. I'm proud of him, and I can't wait to see what Jesus has next for Luke. Jesus has been very, very good to Luke. He's been very good to our family, and so it's going to be exciting this evening. Noel's here from out of town, so it's a family gathering this weekend here at the Bresson household. I'm glad he's able to walk. For a while there, that was kind of up in the air. So the LFCISD has done a great job. Just saw some pictures of the football field. Wow, that is amazing. They've gone above and beyond to make this happen. And again, thankful for the school district. And I'm sure Luke is too. Again, proud of Luke. And I'm so glad that he's able to have this kind of graduation even in these uncertain days and times. As I think about graduation of Luke, we have been in Psalm 3 this week. And again, this has been very stressful for Luke and the class of 2020 because, again, it hasn't been normal. So the stress level has been a little higher than it probably would have been for your typical graduation season. We're in Psalm 3, and David's under a lot of stress. And I thought, you know what? As we're talking about graduation, as we're thinking about graduation, this is a perfect psalm to just, again, a couple minutes, sit and think about, what does this have to say for the graduates? What does this have to say to Luke? What does it have to say to his friends? In this uncertain time, in this time of stress. Because even as we gather this evening at the stadium, like everything else, it's a group activity that won't be normal. There will be, again, distancing and masks and a constant reminder that even though we are together, it's not the way it has been. And so that creates a different kind of a stress. David, under a lot of stress, Psalm 3 finds him kicked off his throne, kicked out of his city, Jerusalem. He's on the run. It's his son who has done him in, Absalom, and now he's on the run. So in the middle of this psalm, David is expressing his angst, his anguish, and all the stuff that is making him stressful. He says this in verse 4, I cry aloud to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not be afraid of thousands of people who have taken their stand against me on every side. I want you to notice the 4 eyes there, because this is David's internal expression. He moves from an address to God in the middle of the psalm. He switches directions. He is addressing God for the first few verses, and now all of a sudden he is talking about himself, what's going on the inside. I cry aloud, I lie down, I wake again, I will not be afraid. I cry aloud. David's in trouble, and the only place he knows to go is to God. And David is making his appeal to the only one who can help him, the one who has already promised him that his throne would be established forever. He's in a situation which he's wondering, is that really going to happen? But his appeal is to God, the one who is really on the throne of all things and rules and reigns over all things. And then he says, I lie down and I wake again. This is all the language of rest. David is entrusting himself. David doesn't just cry out. His body language follows the cry. If he's going to cry out to God, a lot of times we do that. David could have done this, and then immediately you start to spin yourself in overdrive trying to figure out how you're going to get it done. And he's in a situation which he's at his last straw. He can't do that. So he appeals to God, and then he lies down. He goes to sleep. And then he wakes up. God wakes him up. God is sustaining him through this. And then he says, I will not be afraid. So implicit in the rest, the reason why he can lay down after crying out to God, he lays down, he rises up. The reason he can do that is because he's not afraid. So implicit in the rest is a lack of fear. Now he's expressing verbally, specifically, this lack of fear. He's saying, I will not be lost to my enemies. And this, of course, is the story of Jesus. Jesus entrusts everything to the Father, and then he lies down. He goes to sleep. He voluntarily gives up his life. 3 days later, he is awakened. He rises from the dead. And so this is his story, but it is also our story in Jesus. This is our story. We entrust ourselves to Jesus, and we rest in him. We place our confidence in him. Everything we have is in him, even when the future is unknown, even when it's stressful, even when we don't know what's happening tomorrow. We can go to sleep and we can rest because we know Jesus has us. There's also a bit of a Mythbuster here, and it being Saturday, I thought, you know what? We could even touch on that. I wasn't going to do that today, but there is a bit of a Mythbuster here. It's a statement toward the end of Psalm 3. The reason there is a rest, the reason there is a lack of fear, is that Jesus is the one taking care of the enemies. These enemies, again, are not, and here's the part of the Mythbuster, the enemy is not the guy who cuts me off on I-77. It's not the guy who cuts in line at Walmart. It's not even the guy at work who is doing me in so that he can get the promotion that I'm looking for. That's not the enemy. It's not really even the enemy who doesn't like me because I'm a Christian and then kind of works against me and is always seemingly making life a little more difficult because I'm a Christian. That's not the enemy, especially here in the New Covenant. It's not the guy who doesn't like me. It's not the guy who's always making sure I get the short end of the stick. No, that's not my enemy. When we see this psalm interpreted in Romans and in Hebrews, the enemies are sin, which is me, sin, death, the devil, and hell. Those are the things that I really should be worried about. And especially my own sin. All I have to do is wake up. When I wake up, go look in the mirror. That's my enemy. So Psalm 3, part of the Mythbusting here, is it's not promoting an us versus them mentality. That is not healthy for gospel witness. That is loud and clear in the New Testament. We're not David. We are not Israel. Their covenant was always bound up with their enemies, but ours aren't. We are supposed to love our enemies. We're supposed to pray for those who are spiteful against us. We do that, and we immediately find that our enemy isn't quite the enemy that David's talking about here. It's not the kind of language we apply to the person that we are praying for and loving for the gospel's sake. So when I'm worried about the enemy, I'm worried about my sin. I'm worried about the devil. I'm worried about what he is doing against our ministry in the big picture. And especially when it comes to sin, I'm worried about the enemy in the mirror. I'm worried about the need to confess. I'm worried about the need to go seek forgiveness from Jesus again because I've blown it again. I'm worried about opportunities to give grace and peace to the guy who cuts in front of me at Walmart and the guy who is constantly looking to do me in. I'm looking for grace to give to that person. I'm looking for opportunities to love that person. That's how I approach these things, through the gospel lens. Because the real enemy is my own sin. It's not that guy, it's me. That is today's conversation at the table. So this weekend, tomorrow again, a couple ways to experience the table. You can join me here in my driveway, and it'd be great to have you. We'll be in our driveway at 10:30. We're having communion tomorrow. So again, if you show up, we're going to have a conversation. We'll have communion. And then join us online right here on Facebook 10:30 or on YouTube at 10:30. We'll have our online service. Our quarantine message this week is Elijah. We're in 1 Kings 19 looking at Elijah in quarantine. What does he have to teach us? What does he have to say about us being in quarantine? What are we supposed to learn from his experience? So we'll do that tomorrow. And then next Sunday, June 7th, again, Los Fresnos Community Center. Hope you can make it, 10:30. We will have our first gathering, physical gathering, have our first service. I like to say it's not the table's reopened. The table never went anywhere because the table's you. The table's me. We've always been here. We've continued to connect with each other, but we will be doing it in a live experience at the Los Fresnos Community Center next Sunday at 10:30. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay at home as much as possible, but also stay connected. Remember, we are loved by Jesus for the love of Los Fresnos. You have a great Saturday evening.